We start on a giant fuck-off cliff face, where a trio of 20-somethings are doing a bit of crazy climbing, until the bloke falls to his death in front of truly terrible green screen. Anyway, 51 weeks later, and no, that isn't the new sequel to a Danny Boyle zombie classic, we catch up with Becky, who's totally the dead bloke's widow and is struggling to cope with her grief, even though her dad says it's almost been a year now and she should probably just get over it already. Then her best friend Hunter stops by and convinces the reluctant grieving widow to get back into climbing. And what better way to gently ease her traumatised mate back into the sport than by clambering up a 2,000-foot tower? Turns out Hunter is one of them obnoxious TikToker vloggers who likes to film herself doing crazy things for clicks. Just like my mate Dave, who was challenged to eat everything on the menu at his local Taco Bell, but just ended up on the boggle night after managing to only get through half of the items before being hospitalised with severe dehydration. Anyway, they then make the 6-hour drive over to the middle of the desert to find that decommissioned B67 TV tower, but can't seem to locate it for love nor money. And so ask a random waitress at a diner where the fourth highest structure in the US could possibly be. And she makes them look like right mogadons by pointing out the window to reveal the giant fuck-off tower they've been looking for all night is right in front of their freaking face. No! But before they head over, Becky has to charge her phone. So naturally, Hunter does some MacGyver-level life hack what she apparently learned about on the YouTubes and sticks the prongs of her phone charger directly into the bulb of a fucking lamp. And before you can say, oh well, I'm sure that won't totally ever come up again sometime in the third act, we cut to the next morning, and after Becky has a few sexy nightmares about being spooned by the bloody corpse of her husband because reasons, they drive on over to the tower, although promptly get stopped in their tracks by a pesky gate and end up having to walk the rest of the way. A little later, having passed some ominous vultures munching up a half-dead animal, even though vultures don't eat live animals, so walk on, they eventually arrive at the base of the tower and start doing a bunch of selfie videos for the Insta-clicks and shit. But as her oblivious and self-absorbed friend describes its towering height and mad stats, Becky starts to have a meltdown given the last time she did some climbing she lost her husband and watched her entire hopes and dreams in life go over a fucking cliff. And so promptly tells Hunter that she's totally having second thoughts and don't think she's going to be going up that dodgy monstrosity today, especially on her first climb back since the accident last year. But Blondie just says, yes you bloody are, because we walk fucking miles, son, so get your butt up there and shut up about it already. So, because she's easily manipulated by basic peer pressure, they totally start the climb, and proceed to ascend higher and higher whilst ignoring how rusty and janky the whole structure is. And even one of the bars snapping off the ladder doesn't seem to make her put her foot down and tell her friend in no uncertain terms that she's a total nutcase, and there's no frigging way that this could possibly end well. After stopping to have a little drink halfway up and hilariously ignoring even more screws coming loose and falling straight past them, their path seems to be blocked by a pair of pesky satellite dishes. And rather than just say, oh well, maybe we should just leave the whole thing here and call it a day, they proceed to squeeze right past them and climb the final rusty ladder to the top. And before they can say, fuck me, the tinfoil conspiracy nutters were right all along, and the earth is flatter than Kristen Stewart's chest and also Prince Elrond's face, they take a bunch of selfies and film themselves recklessly hanging off the janky old structure with a drone. Anyway, after they're done fucking around up there, Becky randomly scatters her dead lover's ashes, and after she comforts that hunter bird who's surprisingly emotional about her friend's husband's passing, they both finally decide to get the heck out of Dodge. But unfortunately, that rusty ladder totally fat shames Becky by spitting out its screws and buckling under her weight. Somehow, though, her blonde mate manages to haul her ass back up to the top platform of that fat-phobic tower, and their cries of relief soon turn to cries of panicked disbelief when they realise they're now stuck 2,000 feet in the air, and without a phone signal to even update their Facebook status and shit. Checking out their surroundings, they find an emergency box containing a small pair of binoculars and an old flare gun, although whoever packed it totally forgot to pack any sustenance, including a flask of water or maybe even a tasty donut. And speaking of donuts, they've only gone and left their bag of supplies down by the satellite dishes, so now they have no liquids or solids to keep them going, nor any first aid kits to stitch up Becky's wounded leg. A little later, and they realise that they had a signal back down on the ground when they took a pic of that vulture bizarrely eating a live animal and got a bunch of likes on Instabook and shit. So if they can just get their phone down to a lower altitude, then this influencer with over 60,000 followers could send out a message to let her fans know that their dumbasses are totally stuck on top of a small platform 2,000 feet above a random desert. So naturally, they start to undress and put the phone into Hunter's shoe, padded with her sock and push-up bra, whilst proceeding to give me a raging lob. Anyway, Becky then glimpses a tattoo on her mate's ankle, which says 143. Which is strange, as that was the same phrase what her dead husband used to always use to tell her he loved her and shit. But before she can say, yeah, something ain't quite right here, Hunter spots a dog walker down below and tries to get his attention by undressing some more, and attempting to knock him out with some more shoes. Or some shit. And although he does notice one of the said shoes, he hilariously looks everywhere but up, so totally doesn't see the poor half-naked chicks doing saucy stripteases miles above. Once night falls, they try to use the flare gun to get his attention after he camped out in an RV for the evening, and although he and his friend does finally notice them, they don't realise they're stuck, and instead of helping the ladies, they just proceed to rob the twats, because comedy, bro. Man, these gals just can't catch a break. Later, once everything has calmed down a bit, Becky totally confronts her chum about her ankle tattoo, where she promptly confesses to have been shagging her mate's dead hubby for 4 entire months during their marriage, and after being racked with guilt and also not wanting to be stuck up there in such an awkward atmosphere, Hunter volunteers to try and get their bag of supplies from the satellite dishes just below, which she totally does, but then suddenly slips off the rope and seems to fall to her death. But luckily, she miraculously lands slap bang on the supply bag. What? So, after the tiny scrawny woman hauls her back up somehow, they write an SOS note and stick it to the newly retrieved drone. But like most of these bloody things, the machine runs out of batteries barely 30 seconds after it's launched, so they have no choice but to bring it back already. Later that night, Becky dreams about being eaten out by birds. And I can totally relate, since I have that dream most nights and then usually wake up with sticky underpants. Anyway, turns out that was just a bad hallucination because her leg wound is totally getting worse. And the next morning, they have the bright idea to use Hunter's crazy life hack, what they demoed on the lamp earlier, and use the beacon on top of the tower that's crucial to avoid planes hitting it to totally juice up their drone. See? I told you that nonsense would come up again in the third act. So, after using her wedding ring to carry the current, along with some other vague science, she totally starts charging the drone, but has to stay up there for a few hours, clinging to the pole for dear life till it's fully powered and shit. Which is especially tough given those hungry vultures from earlier start attacking her because they can totally smell blood and just want her to hurry up and die already. After taking a little rest and moaning about how she misses her dad and regrets being rude to him the last time they spoke, they finally fly the drone back to the motel, where it hilariously gets hit by a truck because plot hurdle, bro. And before she can say, well, that was a total fucking waste of time then, a raging storm approaches, and as a last resort, Becky wants to try doing the phone in the shoe trick again, but Hunter says she can't give her shoe because the shoe is on her foot, and her foot is totally down by the satellite dishes with the rest of her body. And in a shocking twist, what no one could ever see coming, unless you've watched 47 Metres Down and also Adrift, turns out that wounded Becky lass has been hallucinating her husband whoring friend for hours, because she totally died when she fell off the rope and didn't miraculously land directly on top of the small supply bag after all. And the tiny scrawny lass totally didn't manage to pull her up either. Man, these writers are geniuses. So, after she has a little cry and makes a final goodbye video to send to her dad, she wakes up the next morning and has a hearty raw breakfast with extra feathers, and gains just enough strength to drop down to the dishes and disrespect the corpse of her cheating friend by sticking her phone inside the last remaining shoe and then stuffing it into her mate's ribcage before tipping her traitorous arse off the tower. Well, I guess that's just what you get when you shag your best mate's hubby. And just before the satellite dishes seem to be giving way, we cut to her dad racing down the highway, and soon reuniting with his dumbass daughter who seems to have somehow got rescued completely off screen. And after the audience has invested 90 minutes of their lives into figuring out how she was possibly going to get down and then not even getting to see it. Ah, what satisfying writing. And we end with a cheesy voiceover about how we all have to live our lives without fear. And before you can say, does this mean we all have to go climb random rusty towers and shove shoes into the stomach cavity of our best friends just to feel alive? We cut to the end credits. And that's it. That's the movie. Though my favourite part was trying to figure out just which bit was the most unrealistic. Like, was it charging a drone via the giant light bulb of an emergency beacon 2,000 feet above ground? Or was it more the vultures not eating the corpse's wide open eyeballs first? Because even Bear Grylls taught us that scavengers go for the most exposed and vulnerable parts of the carcass first, way back in his Born Survivor show years ago. But anyway, that's the plot and that's your lot. Considering that bell thing so you don't miss any future recaps. Tell me if you like this flick in the comments if you have time, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.